New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello and welcome to Global Focus Today. I am your host, Reverend Sharri Johnson, and I have today the most marvelous guest. I know we specialize in marvelous guests here, but this young lady is just outstanding. Reverend Renee Leboa is an ordained New Thought minister who served as a senior minister of the Spiritual Living Center in Charlotte, North Carolina for 12 years. She's dynamic, humorous, and transparent about the lived experiences that brought her to the New Thought teaching, and we're going to be hearing more about that. For more than 30 years, Renee has dedicated herself to studying world religions, metaphysics, the law of attraction, mental health awareness, 12-step recovery, and life mentoring. She's a highly sought-after keynote speaker, and as a survivor, she uses her experience as a teaching tool for inspiring others. She's passionate about human potential, and she believes we can use our stories for healing. She's an author, an improvisational actor and comedian, and is a classically trained, accomplished vocalist. I can attest to that. This lady can sing the socks off anyone you know. So please help me welcome Reverend Renee Leboa.
Hi.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be with us, Renee.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking me. I love your enthusiastic introduction. That's wonderful. I appreciate you.
Well, you know, this is my gift to New Thought, is to make sure that people understand that we have a whole lot more than brick and mortar going on. Mm-hmm. There are lots of kinds of spiritual awareness and spiritual teachings available in a lot of different ways. And mine is Focus Ministry. So I'm highlighting Focus Ministers starting today with asking you what brought you to New Thought in the first place. That lived experience thing sounds really interesting.
I thought that would intrigue you. Well, the first 30 years of my life were pretty much a dumpster fire. And, you know, seriously, and the world that I grew up in was one of trauma, homelessness, drugs, abuse, high school dropout, on and on and on. So when I was introduced to, it was 1994, when I was introduced to the science of mind, at that point, religious science, it was mind-blowing to me that people thought that way. And there was something deep inside of me that said, there's part of me that really believes this. And I also thought, well, maybe I've been thinking this all along. That's why life felt weird to me. And I was introduced to some people who kept telling me how amazing I was and how much I had going on. And I kept thinking, well, you don't know what I've done. You don't know where I've been. And a friend of mine, Reverend Michael Spears, said to me, honey, you're not your actions. Who you are is a divine, magnificent expression of the one. I had no idea what he was talking about, but it intrigued me enough that I went with him that weekend to a Science of Mind church, and it changed my life forever. Absolutely changed my life forever. And when I say changed, I really mean saved. I'm a strong believer that just because you come from a certain lifestyle does not mean that through the power of changing your belief and your thinking that your life cannot turn around on a dime. And so that's what brought me to it. And it's been my passion for, honestly, let's see how long, 1994. So about 30 years.
Well,
Mhm.
I would like to say that's an unusual story, but I'm here to tell you.
Mhm.
Every one of us walked into our first Signs of Mind church and went, I'm not crazy.
Mhm.
There are people who know what I know and believe
Mhm.
it. So yeah, I feel it. I do. So what do you mean when you say lived experience? Is there any other kind of experience besides lived experience?
Well, lived experience makes me a peer support specialist in certain areas to where I can sit down with someone who has experienced domestic abuse, sexual violence, drugs, homelessness, self-esteem issues. So those I have joint lived experience with people who have experienced those types of lifestyles. And so I can sit with them, be with them.
The front door.
I am so sorry about that. I can sit with them, be with them, and share my stories with them, which can give them hope and inspiration to choose another way of thinking about life. That's why I like to use this teaching is to meet up with people that don't believe that there's another way of living, another way of being. Does that make sense?
It so makes sense. It so makes sense. So who's your target audience? Who's the folks that your ministry serves, and how do you connect with them? How do you find them? How do they find?
About 4 years ago, I call it the great come apart. I had kind of a mental awareness moment, and I began working with an organization called Promise Resource Network, who works with people who are disenfranchised. And I began teaching and working with people who were homeless, who had drug issues, had mental health illness, and I found that was my absolute passion. I worked with these people, and I used new thought principles with them, and they didn't even know that I was doing it, yet I saw a change in their life. I started taking it to the streets. I belong to a few organizations now. The mental health part of it is absolutely amazing. I myself have lived with bipolar most of my life, and I belong to an organization called This Is My Brave. I'm one of the alumni, and basically behind it says your story can change lives. So it's about sharing our story, sharing the real truth about what we've gone through, and then come to the other side to say, I'm not just a survivor, I'm a thriver, and I live in recovery from this situation, and this situation. And so I have found that New Thought has brought so much light to those particular areas and pockets of life. And so that's kind of my platform. And I don't even have to search it out. They find me, you know what I mean? It's like, I draw people that want to hear something.
Do you have a website?
I'm working on it. And anybody who wants to give me a hand, I'm open to that, because that's not my specialty. And so I'm kind of dragging on it. But I will be doing that. I have a Facebook page that has all my information on it, how to get in contact with me. I do mentoring. I just meet with people and sit with them as well. So it's mostly just about being a presence for people and subtly teaching them the New Thought principles until they ask that they want to do it.
Okay. All right. So they can find you on Facebook, and we've got your email address down here. So
Yes.
Scrolling across the line. What if somebody wants to support your ministry? How would they go about doing that?
Well, they could email me directly, and I could send them a link to either my PayPal, Venmo. And, if they just want to support me in ways of helping me get my website up, maybe people want to reach out and give me ideas about how I can take this in a more communicative, across the board type of way of sharing. So that would be helpful. They could just email me. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's see. Here's a question I ask all of my guests, because I love the different ways that it gets answered. And I'm going to ask you some more questions later, but this will kind of set you up for them. everything happens exactly the way you want it to happen, what will your ministry look like 10 years from now?
Mm. You know, the first thought that popped in my mind is so interesting. The first face was Louise Hay. Her
Wow.
face popped in my mind. She's always been my shero. She was kind of one of my first teachers via, literature. I would want to affect lives in a way that have them believe in the way that I do, that there is nothing that is impossible. I would like to see lives enlivened, this message of truth and universal intelligence spread through a new awakening in people that feel that they are, well, I'm going to say it, not enough, for people to realize their dynamic worth.
Oh, Ooh. Okay. So next question is, you already answered my first question, which was how did you get to New Thought?
Oh.
But my next question is, what if you had to pick one thing in your ministry that was the most rewarding, that about which you are the most passionate, what would that be?
Teaching. I love to teach. I could talk about New Thought for hours, but what really lights me up is to see the light go on in someone else's eyes, to realize that, oh, the way that I've believed all this time doesn't necessarily have to be true. That is the most exciting to me, to see that awakening and the passion for wanting to know more.
I know what you mean. There's no bigger charge than seeing the light go on over somebody's head and knowing you pulled the string.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like the way you said that.
Well, I taught college for 35 years before I became a minister. So
that explains it.
So I heard that you were writing a book.
I am writing a book. I've been writing it for years and years and years. And what's interesting is that as I grow in consciousness, the format changes. And so, but I've gotten really serious about it. And the title, well, it keeps changing, but this is the one I'm on right now. Let Go or Get Dragged. And so that is about letting go of the idea, letting go of the story, letting go of the life you used to have. And it's around a story that happened to me when I was at camp, when I don't know, maybe 10 or 12, and I couldn't ride the horse very well. And the horse was going through this stream and it wanted to like roll. And so the camp counselor is yelling at me, let go, or you're going to get dragged. And so your response is always to want to hang on, right? And so I did go down with the horse, and I got smashed and wet and sprained my ankle. And so it's kind of been a thing for me throughout my life is let go, just let go, because you're going to get dragged if you don't. And so it's kind of that theme about here's the story. Here's a story. This is what happened, but what is the gift? What is the highlight? What is the lesson? Because I really do believe everything happens for our good, whether it feels good at the time. If we can turn and look at it and say, okay, what was in this, or what is in this for me? It can be such a learning tool, and it takes us from being a victim to being not just a thriver, but someone who intends their way through life, intends the next experience. I don't allow the past to define me. Yes, those things happen. And yes, there are things that I did that I'm not proud of, but that's not who I am today. It's not who I'll be tomorrow. And so these principles are the ones that continue to pull me forward. And that's kind of the message that I want to share. So it's half memoir, half science of mind, half whatever, half I keep saying half. So there's lots of stuff in there.
My grandma used to say, there's a blessing in every lesson.
There's a blessing.
And I one of the things I love about Science of Mind and New Thought in general is that it encourages us. It doesn't just teach us. It doesn't preach us. It encourages us to actually be grateful for that blessing before we even see what it is.
Exactly.
To know, somehow to know, no matter how much not blessing is going on in the world, to know that the blessing is in there someplace.
Exactly.
Now, like the little boy in the pile of horse poop.
Right.
So I absolutely feel that with you.
Yeah.
So here's another question I ask everybody. How does your ministry, your teaching, because your ministry is not a thing that's outside of you.
Right.
It's what you do and live and be all day, every day.
Mhm.
How does that encourage, support, develop, pick your own verb, conscious evolution?
I think I understand what you're asking, is that I am a perpetual student. Is this what you're asking me? Is that how do I evolve? I'm a perpetual student. What I love to find is that, I've read probably 1 million books over the past 30 years. What I love is that when I open it up and they've been scratched in, there's notes in the margins or highlighted, I always find something new about what I've already highlighted. I look at it and I see it in a new way, almost like an aha every time. And that to me is exciting because I want to keep having a higher understanding of this life that I'm living, the life that I'm thinking into. And I want to always be open at the top, not only to receive, but to be willing to consider something else. And that's how I think that I continue to evolve. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever read the book Spiral Dynamics, kind of like you can't go back, severe tire damage, right? And so you just have to just keep going. And it feels a lot of times like the labyrinth and you're going back on yourself, but really you never are. You're always moving forward. And that's what I try to hang on to in those dark times. There's something I want to say too, is that people have a tendency when they first come to new thought is that everything is going to be fine now because we think positively. Well, what really is fine is that the way that we view the world, and it's how we deal with the situation at hand and how we look at the situation and what beliefs we bring to it. There's no guarantee that we're not going to have a bad day, but what there is a guarantee is that when we choose our thoughts around that situation, we move through it in a much different way. And that to me is the gold in this teaching, absolute gold.
Yeah. I love the spiral. I think of conscious evolution, the intention that you were talking about earlier, that is so essential to me. And I think of it as being a spiral road path that we walk. But when you say spiral path, people think of something that's shaped like a Christmas tree, right? No, it's an upside down Christmas tree. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and wider and deeper and louder. That very first Ernest Holmes quote I ever heard was, "We must remain open at the top," and I was instantly hooked. The best teacher I ever had, I was a junior in high school, and biology was a senior class, and my best friend and I talked the nun who was teaching it into letting us take it. And everybody in the school was scared of her, including the principal. I mean, she was a little fire plug. I don't think she ever smiled in her whole life, but she was all heart. Nobody knew it because she never smiled, but she was all heart. We were having the section on botany, and she said, "No tree ever dies of old age. Trees only die when some outside force causes them to stop growing." It was the first, oh my God, what are the rest of these people doing here? She's obviously talking into me moment I've ever had in my life. And that was exactly, I saw her face when I read that quote, "We must remain open at the top." And I understood why she told it to us, why that was so important. So yeah, I love that spiral walking and moving. And the other thing I like about the spiral that goes up and gets bigger and bigger is you can't go back.
Exactly.
You can't accidentally slide back.
Mhm.
One-way road, which is marvelous. So, what is the single most important thing that you would tell to someone who was in a state of spiritual, mental, emotional, whatever crisis? Because that's where I see you
Mhm.
shining.
Right. I have a lot of those opportunities. And, when someone is I like to say they're in despair, they're at that moment, they're without hope. And first of all, I try to remind them that this situation, what you're currently experiencing, is not forever and it's not the truth of you. And the truth as I see it, and then I share with them what I believe to be true, that they're magnificent. They're a light of God. God has no children. And I explain, my ideas about the universe and the magnificence and the infinite expansion, and that we're all part of that. And then, you can see their energies start changing. And one of my teachers said this to me, is that you may not believe this for yourself yet, but can you believe that I believe it? And if you can believe that I can believe it, just hang on to that, and I'll walk this with you. And that is really kind of the path and the journey that I take these days, is that I know you don't know how to take the next step, but I do, because I've been there. And so let me show you.
I love that. I love that. If you can't believe it yet, you can believe that I believe it. I'll do it. I love. Can I have that? Can I use that?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Please. It's not original to me.
Right into my heart and became part of my toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Okay. So what's coming up new in your life now, in your ministry? What's the leading edge, the growing space of your ministry right now?
I'd say that the leading edge is not just I say taking it to the streets and helping that way. I've taken on some new clients that actually I've been working with one gentleman for about 3 years now. So it started at the beginning of the pandemic, and he said that he always liked to hear me speak. He wanted to know more about the teaching, and would I take the walk with them. And we've been working together for about 3 years. Every single week we meet, and it's been this incredible mentoring experience. I probably learned more from him than he learns from me, and his willingness to look at himself is so absolutely beautiful. So I'd say that I'm taking on a new side of doing mentoring in that way, with people that are not just in that place of trauma or despair, but are in a place to say, you know what, I want more. I want even more of this. I want to grow even more. And so that's been pretty exciting, and working with a few other people and watching the light go on in a different way, and them aspiring to want to kind of close the chapter on what they thought their life was going to be, and moving into what their life is meant to be. And so that's kind of where I'm leading now, still doing the work with, the homeless and the disenfranchised. I do a lot of work with women's empowerment. And you'd be so surprised at how many women are living in and or surviving domestic violence. And I'm also doing a lot of work with mental health. For years in my ministry, I kept my mental health secret, in feeling ashamed of who I was. And so what's happened now is that I'm out and proud. I tell everybody who I am and what it is that I live with, and the tools that I use to move through every day, and that our stories do save lives. It's so important for us to tell our stories about where we've been. And so I'm working on, I have some workshops that I do about this is your story. So that, and it keeps growing every day. I'm a Gemini, so I have brand new ideas all the time, every minute.
So this is just nosy Grandma Sharri question.
Okay.
But I love how you sing.
Oh, thank you.
And and in my mind, you can't be separated from how you sing. Music is part of who you are. So I'm wondering how the music, what part that plays in your ministry.
I haven't really, other than the conference this last September, I hadn't sung in a while. I have 2 CDs, and I, of course, have sung all over, everywhere, doing conferences and churches and all that. And I kind of pulled back from that for a little while. And you're not the only one who is asking me, what are you doing with that? What are you doing with that? And I think that it's time for me to give that some more attention and to find more ways for me to share my voice, because my voice in the songs that I pick are really about message. And I'm all about whatever I sing has to be about a message, uplifting, about what you've been through, where you're going through, inspiration, that kind of thing. So thank you for asking. And I promise that if you ask me that again in the future, I will have the answer as to what I'm actually doing.
Good. I'm glad to hear that because I believe, in fact, I wrote a blog about it this week. I believe that music is prayer.
Yes.
I believe that music is therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that music can express a feeling that words can't,
Mm-hmm.
at least not words by themselves.
Right.
And I would give anything to be able to sing like that. But I got the mumps when I was 14, and I can either sing on key or I can sing loud, but I can't do them both at the same time. And nobody, wants to be around while I'm doing one of them. So I'm enormous envy and admiration for your talent. And I just know that if music is not part of what you're doing, then you're not doing as much of yourself as you're not being as much of yourself as you can be. So please do that and let me be part of it. Let me know about it when it happens.
I will. Thank you. That means so much. Thank you. It really does.
Here's another question I ask everybody. I don't ask everybody about music.
Okay.
But here's another question I ask all my guests, because it's my show and I can, and it interests me. One of my most deeply held goals is world peace.
Mm-hmm.
So I always ask, what is it that's happening in your ministry? How is your ministry contributing to, supporting, enhancing, pick your own verb, world peace?
That's kind of what I stand in. I believe, obviously that, well, not obviously to some, but to me, globally, we are one tribe. And because we're the one tribe, that there is only one of us. Yes, all different shapes and sizes and cultures and religions and communities. And yet, clearly there's separation, which is sad to my heart. And so my message is always about, how can we bring an understanding to someone we don't understand, or their lifestyle or their religion is something that we're not familiar with. Well, I'm an asker. I will just come right out and ask a question. And so if there's something I don't understand about someone or a culture or religion, I'm going to ask. And so it's up to each and every one of us and to bring together those questions, those opportunities to sit together, to go to lunch with someone. Go to lunch with someone who's maybe an imam. Go to lunch with someone who is of the Baha'i faith. Go to lunch with someone who is from Islamic, who is Jewish. Ask questions about who they are and their background and their culture and where they come from, and try to find those common bonds. That's what I'm doing. I'm bringing my voice, my big questions to the table, to anyone that will sit and listen. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, you just hit on another one of my favorite things, which is interfaith. I love interfaith activities, and another of my favorite Holmes quotes is that there's a golden thread of truth that runs through all faith traditions, and our job as seekers is to find those threads and weave them together into a fabric that will support the search of any Student,
Yes.
any person. So yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
tell us your favorite story about things that have happened or the biggest aha that you've had in your ministry.
Oh, gosh, give me a second. Biggest aha.
Or your biggest chuckle or your biggest
Well,
whatever.
I would say my biggest aha actually happened when I was with this woman who was in hospice. And because I always had this feeling before that my ministry had to have had to be grand, I guess. When I was at the center, and we had big service every Sunday, big music, big classes, big everything. I used to think that's what success looked like for my ministry. And then when I chose to walk away from that, I had a real big empty hole in me. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. When I was sitting with this woman in hospice and I was holding her hand, we were just having a conversation. It was just the two of us. And she asked me to sing for her. And so I just sang a sweet little song that came to my mind. And I sat there holding her hand and just encouraging her. And that was my big aha, is that it doesn't have to be grandiose. It's about the intention and who I am as a human being. All of my experience and everything that I've gone through makes me a hugely compassionate and loving human being. And that is what my ministry is based on.
Oh, do you know what I heard you say?
What?
You said every single one of us is a gift from God to the universe, and all we have to do in the world is unwrap the package, take off the ribbon, and give away the gift. And that's what your ministry is all about.
Oh, thank you for helping me define that. Yes.
Okay. One last question that I ask everybody, and it's really the most important one. Will you come back?
Yes, I will. Thank you so much.
I'm getting the calendar out right now. I don't let anybody get away from me. They say yes.
I think you're wonderful. I think you know that too. I love you so much. Okay. I don't know if you guys know, Reverend Sharri gave me these cool hats. And I actually use one to write. I wear it when I write.
Oh, goody. I'm so glad. Okay, so the first opening I have is the 12th of September.
Okay. You know what? I don't have a thing on it yet. 12th of September.
Oh, put me down, and I will send you a link the Saturday before that.
Okay.
Yay!
Thank you so much. You're so wonderful, and thank you for doing this. This is obviously your ministry, and your joy and enthusiasm have really inspired me today. And thank you for your beautiful questions, because you've given me lots to think about, and I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. And everybody, please come back again next week, because next week we have somebody who's really funny, Reverend and a half, and you're going to really enjoy him. So don't miss it. Bye-bye.
Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things.